Hello and welcome to Learning Access 2013. My name is Mike Henry and this is video 5 from tutorial 1. In this video we are going to create a table from scratch and then we're going to copy and paste records into this table after we've hand typed in a record and then deleted it. So as we look at this database, we can see that there's some changes here. First thing I want you to notice is this is not the same database, it's a different one. You can see where it says clinical and then copy. So I made a copy of this database and then I deleted one of the tables. The table that's missing, you can see that that table that we looked at before called visit is missing. The reason we're missing is because we're going to recreate that table, and I want you to see from the book way first how to create a table. So we click here, create, and then if I come right here to table, this allows me to create the table in the datasheet view. It's a less powerful view in my opinion, and I find that it's a lot better to do it in the design view, but because the book has this in here, I want you to see this way. So the first thing you see is when a table gets created, it automatically creates a field that's tried to be uniquely identifying the record. So in this case, I don't want this field to be an auto number. I'm going to actually put in my own unique identifiers, and I'm going to call that a short text. Now the field's name right now is called ID, and I don't want it to say ID. I need it to say visit ID. So what I can do is just double click right here, and I can change this to say visit ID. So I can name my field whatever I want it to be. Notice when I tab, I move to the click to add field. This allows me to first pick what kind of data type it's going to be, and in this case I want another short text. And then I get to name the field, and in this case I'm going to call it the patient ID. Okay. Now I could tab over, or if I like moving my hand from the keyboard to the mouse, I can click here and then I can move down. This field, we're going to call it a date and time field. A little bit different. And this one is going to say the visit date. So we'll know what date this person came. And I tab right over. And now I'm looking at adding in my next thing, which is going to be a short text. So I use the arrow key down and just hit enter. So now I'm able to type in, this is going to be the reason this person came to visit our medical clinic. Again, I tab over, and this one is going to be a different kind of box. We're going to use this one here, a yes, no. That gives me a box. If it's checked, yes. If it's not checked, no. So in this case, we're going to name this field called walk-in. So if the person walked in, we check the box. If they didn't walk in, if they had an appointment, we don't check the box. And then the last one we're going to put in here is a much longer text field. We used to call this the memo field, and this will be for putting in any comments. So I've now done this on the datasheet view. I could have done this in the design view, but before I move any further, I need to make sure I save this not as table 1, but as a real table name. So I come up to here and I hit save, and it says, what do you want to call this? And so I put in here TBL, because that's going to signify this is a table. And then I'm going to put in the name of it, which is going to be visit. And so I've typed in that name. I think I need better glasses. I type in my name and I hit OK. And so now I've got a table that's in here. I can go back and view this. You can see from the design view I could have edited in a lot more information that we'll talk about next tutorial on there. But instead I'm going to come back here, and I want you to see how I can edit a record or add in a record. So we'll call this record 1000, and it will be for patient 25500, and they visited today. So I can click in the date in a couple different ways. I could hand type it in, so I could start typing in the date and hand type that in. I also have right here a little calendar, so I can click on that and I could put in the date this way. I could click on the date and you notice that puts in today's date. Or a nice little shortcut for those who like to keep their hands on the keyboard is I used Control and colon, and that puts in today's date. So multiple ways to put in a date. Now the reason for coming in, I am sick, so I will put in here, and I walked in today and the comment is fix me. Okay. So I've entered in a record. You see how quickly I was able to add a record in, and I'm hand typing that record in. Now, not all records get added into a database through hand typing. A lot of our records get entered in through scanning and other ways. So before I move forward, I want to show you one last thing with this record is I can click on this record. I've got that record highlighted, and I can hit the delete key, and I can also delete a record. And so I'm going to hit yes, so I've deleted that record. Now, to populate out this table, we're actually going to copy records from another database and put them into this database. So right now you can see down here I've got one database open. That's my clinical copy. So notice I'm going to minimize this, and I've got a clinical database right here. You can see my clinical copy is open because I have a little lock button showing that the clinical copy is open. That means nobody else could open this by accident while I'm using it. I have a lock key. So right now I'm going to open up the clinical database, and that gets us open here. I come here, and you'll notice that I have my TBL visit, but in here I have 86 records. Okay, so I have my 86 records. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste these records here. So the first thing I want to do is select all the records. I could sit here and highlight and select all records, or I can use a Control A. Control A means highlight everything, and that's what I just did. I've got everything highlighted. And I am going to copy these. I could click up here as a copy, I can do a right click as a copy, or I can do a Control C, which means I've copied. Any way you want to do it, you get those records copied. And now what I'm going to do is switch back to the clinical copy database. Now what commonly happens here is people click into the first opening and then they go paste, and then it doesn't work and they get very frustrated. The reason is right now I'm trying to take all 86 records and jam them into that one field, into that one little box. And you can't jam 86 records into that one little box because it won't fit. So whenever you're copying and pasting records, you need to do apples to apples. So I'm copying records, so what I do is I click on here and highlight records. If I'm copying records, I paste records. If I'm copying a field, I put it into a field. So now when I hit paste here, you can see it tells me I'm about to paste 86 records. And it says, do you really want to do that? Because if you don't want to do that, that's a lot of data that you could really screw up in your database. So in database, there's lots of, do you really want to do this? Are you sure about what you're doing? And in this case, yes, I really do want them in there. And I hit yes. My data has now been copied into this database. So in this video, we did create a table. We created this table in the datasheet view, and we put in those fields using the datasheet view. We understand that the design view gives us a lot more power and control, and we'll play with that in the next segment. After creating that, we created a record by hand, then we deleted that record, and then we saw that we can copy and paste records from another database into our database.